Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Design Your Life. As always, I'm your host, Jim Mantler, and today we're having a real conversation about what it means to be well as a man, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. I have three men with me today who are deeply passionate about men's mental health and have made it a mission of theirs, really to share their passion with others. So I'm grateful and I'm honored to welcome Andrew Holmes, Derek May, and Tyler Reed. So, gentlemen, welcome to the show. Would you mind just doing a quick introduction? Andrew, we'll start with you.
Yeah, Jim, thanks a lot for having us. But you had it right. Like you said mission, and I promise you, like it's been very clear to me that my mission is men and their mental health. I'm from St. John. I'm 36 years old. Obviously, I'm a man. I've got two young children and a wife at home, and going through a lot of struggles I have in my life and different things, which we'll get into. I've just realized that men need to come together and build each other up. So on a day-to-day basis, I'm a marketing consultant. But yeah, my mission and purpose in life is to have conversations like this and to lift brothers up.
Wonderful. Tyler.
Yeah, hi. So my name's Tyler Reed, 47 years old, but I know I look 37 like Andrew. But yeah, so I'm a real estate agent here in the city in St. John for EXP. I'm a dad. I have a 12-year-old daughter. I'm a dog owner. He's running around the floor here. But I just think this is an amazing opportunity for men to get together and just talk about, our mental health that maybe we don't take enough time to acknowledge day to day. So I'm really excited about the conversation and look forward to it.
Awesome. And last but not least, Derek.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for organizing this again. And Andrew and Tyler, it's good to see you. My name is Derek May. I'm 43 years old. I grew up in St. John. I'm a veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces, now retired. And now I'm affectionately known as the Soapbox Preacher on social media. I like to raise awareness about things in the community around mental health, drug addiction, homelessness, and leading by example, getting out there and challenging people to do more than what they're doing right now. So it's an honor to be here, and I like to share some of my struggles openly with people, and I like to heal loudly. So this is a great opportunity to do so.
Yeah, that's great. And it really is about being open and being vulnerable, which is obviously one of the biggest struggle that men face. And there's always been a stigma around mental health in men, it really mental health in general. And but however, for men, as mentioned, the challenge is really sharing it and openly expressing our feelings, around it. Like, I mean, we're men, right? We're tough. I mean, Derek, you're a veteran, right? We're supposed to be able to handle our shit, right? So when I say mental health, what does that mean, like, to you personally? Let's start with Derek. What does mental health or men's mental health mean to you personally?
Oh golly, this is something that I struggled with, and it's been on my plate for the last 10 years. I was 32 years old, and I realized that, and I was struggling with stuff, and I didn't realize I was struggling because the model that was set out before me was like, you be quiet, you go to work, you drink your beer, and you be a man. You don't talk about your stuff.
Mhm.
And I was so conflicted with that, and I knew that there was something more, and it took me hitting my wall to get that wake up call. So mental health, it's a huge part of my life. It's a necessity to put into mental reps to remain healthy, and it's something that men don't practice often enough.
Yeah, and and you say quiet, like, Tyler, what's that mean for you, staying quiet? You told me a little bit about your story, just growing up, with really nobody to kind of reach out to, so you were kind of forced to remain quiet. So what's
Yeah.
mental health mean to you?
I think mental health to me is just your overall well-being of being able to process information. And I think one of the things I always go back to with people is that, through your life experiences, your traumatic experiences, or any of the cases may be, is that you start to create this filtration system through your thought process. So the information coming in is actually not trauma related, but you're processing it as trauma because your filtration system has been so messed up that you can't process information any longer. And to me, mental health is really about trying to make sure that those filters stay as clean as they can be. And then when your filters are starting to get a little sidetracked, you have someone like Jim or Derek or Andrew and say, look, I'm just not feeling I am where I want to be, and I don't know why, and I just need to try and figure this out. But again, I think mental health to me is sometimes more important than physical health. I know there's many days that my physical health has paid the price for my mental health. So I know physically when I start to feel a little bit off, I immediately go to, well, how am I mentally this week? Am I happy? Am I sad? Am I distracted? And I'll also add, just for another layer of complexity, is that I was diagnosed with ADHD this year as part of my trauma related life experiences. So that's been a whole new, kind of interpretation of how does that now control my mental health on good days and bad days. Right. Yeah. So I guess that's what I would share at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously, you mentioned more important than physical health. Andrew, what about yourself? Would you agree with that part of it? And what's mental health mean to you?
Mm. Oh, I agree with that big time. So mental health, right? It's just we all have mental health. We all, and it's either a not a great state or it's in a great state. And it's just like our body, like the analogy Tyler was using. And actually, I just told a story just came to mind. Tyler, I think I told this to you, Tyler, on Saturday night. And Tyler and I drove up to Moncton to see our brother Christian Savoy Tiger fight his last fight. He called it a career, had a great career. But we were on the drive up there, and I was telling them, I think I was telling you this, but anyway, my legs are hurting, and I was like, why are my legs hurting? Wow. And I realized that I had skated and played hockey the day before. And the reason my legs are hurting is because I really hadn't been working out all that much prior to. I just went out and skated and played hockey. Now my body responded the next day by saying, like, you really didn't prepare for that. Like, you kind of like, this is gonna hurt because you weren't ready. And so luckily I can register that and make changes. But what happens, I think, with our minds is that we don't always recognize when the downward thing is happening, or unless we go through enough reps and have enough knowledge to say, okay, these are the triggers, I need to stop it. So what I've seen so many men deal with is that they've got the leg hurting syndrome, but for their minds, where they're dropping or something's going up, but they don't register it as something that they need to address, or that they need to fix, or that it's worth sharing, or because it's hidden behind all this shame or guilt or whatever. And that starts showing up in poor decisions like alcohol, substances, women, all the things. Before you know it, you're in a black hole. You're self-harm. Your relationships are degrading. Everything's really hurting. So mental health to me is this muscle, this thing, the most important muscle next to your heart, I'm sure, that needs to be constantly monitored and improved to be always in that optimal state. And when you're falling out of that optimal healthy state, you got to find the ways to get back in that optimal state. So very, very important.
Yeah, no, it's, when one word kind of stuck out to me, through the whole thing, and just through a couple of things you guys were saying, and, it's about being quiet. And I think for me, mental health really is about that. It's really about our inability to share things because of how we were brought up or how we learned. And I'm just going to share a quick story, if you don't mind, because as I alluded to in our pre-conversation, just about me being an introvert, I really struggled with sharing anything growing up, and I go back. So when I was a child, I, had a incident where I was, molestation. I was molested as a younger fella. And I always remember at that age, just my parents kind of fluffing it off, like nothing happened. Don't talk about it. Right. And that really stuck with me because from that point on, I can really go back and really pinpoint now where that moment in time was that I learned that, okay, we're not supposed to share anything. This is mine to deal with. Okay, let me figure this out. Right. And then I've gone through my whole life really figuring my shit out internally, keeping it in, not having, an Andrew Holmes to speak with or a Derek May or Tyler, right? It was only over the last year that I kind of really started to learn how to share my feelings more and be vulnerable, and thus Design Your Life podcast, right? So that really stood out to me is that is their inability to share. And does mental health for me really means about opening it up and finding that person or that space where you can be yourself and share those, those, whether it be traumas or moments in your life that are meant to be shared. So yeah, so that's the first time I've shared that openly. So
Yeah, I just want
thanks, guys.
I think someone needs to take that from you right there and just say, bro, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And I want to apologize, like, even on behalf of your parents. Like, they clearly didn't understand how to manage what happened to you.
No, right.
And as a result, likely unknowingly, we have to give them grace in the situation because it's a brutal one. But unknowingly, what they did was because they failed to take responsibility for what happened to you, they left that burden on your shoulders, which carried into your adulthood, and you were left to unravel that. So just, bro, I see you in that, and I'm so sorry you had to deal with that, brother. And I thank God that you came out on the other side of that, and that you can use that story as a testimony to help other brothers who have gone through that, because that's also, unfortunately, a very common story. The more I've been in conversations like this, the more I've realized, like, man, the injustices that happen to little boys is wild. No
Yeah.
excuse. I'm sorry that happened to you, brother.
No, yeah. Don't even know how to react right now, but I appreciate that 100%.
Well, and I'll just, if I don't
Yeah.
mind, Jim, and I think it brings such a critical component of what these four men are sitting in this podcast talking about is stopping the generational trauma that continues to happen. Derek, you brought it up earlier about that's kind of, that was the way, that's the path, that's what you learned. Jim, your parents didn't know how to handle it because maybe they didn't have parents who knew how to handle it. They didn't have parents who knew how to handle it. And I think one of the key things for me nowadays is that having men finally speak up, as being perceived as the, man of the house, the husbands, the leaders, the ones that take on the brunt of it all. We fundamentally are the ones that need to step in to help stop that generational trauma. We need to be the leaders. We can't be followers like we've been our entire lives, and we need to help the next generation of men understand that I know that's what your dad did. Doesn't work. And let me help you figure it a different way. So I just wanted to add that in there. I think generational trauma is such a critical part of, how we're going to heal, our societies move forward. So I just wanted to throw that in there as well.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm just gotta, all right, we'll edit that a lot. Anyways.
That's okay. Hey, man,
It's
take
okay,
a minute.
man. It's good.
It's raw.
Yeah. So was there a time when either of you guys, struggled silently?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I'll hop on this one, guys. I struggled silently a lot. I used different coping mechanisms when I was struggling so I could escape from it because I didn't feel like I had someone to turn to. And what I realized I was searching for in the world was just leaving me empty and bringing me down further. So my go-to was booze, gambling, women, drugs, whatever it took to not make me feel anything. And that's how I suffered. And then I found myself 400 pounds living in a basement and I lost everything. And, that's because I struggled in silence and I didn't ask for help and I thought I could do it until I couldn't. And then I had to ask for help. And, the first person I asked for help was God. And by his grace only, I made it out of that hole. But I had some people around me to show me the love that I didn't deserve, to model what true love looked like, to come alongside me and be like, hey, it's okay. We got you in this. Because if it wasn't for my tribe and helping me and making me feel comfortable, I'd still be suffering silence.
Well, Derek, I'm just going to add in there that you did deserve the love. You just didn't get it. Right? Because you said you didn't deserve the love, and absolutely you deserve it. You just unfortunately weren't getting it.
Yeah, I was hard to love. I'll say that. That's just a term that I use. When you're down and you feel like that and you feel isolated, and that's what happens is you feel no good, you feel broken, and you don't want to burden other people with your problems. But I found quite the opposite. Once you start talking about stuff like we're doing, people start poking their head up and like, hey, what are you guys talking about? And once you have a
Mhm.
solid tribe around you, you're going to thrive. You have a solid group of men around you. And I was talking specifically men, that if you have, I can think off the top of my head, involved in 3 different groups alone that involve men. I got men's ministry at my church, which I'm very grateful for. We got a peer-to-peer support group, which helps veterans and first responders. And we get the Saturday morning accountability crew where men come together. We drink coffee, we go work out, we come back, we break bread, and we talk about life, our struggles, our successes. Um, that's that's an integral part of my life now. I didn't have that before. Had I had that before, I might not have had to struggle in silence.
So yeah, and when you say, we don't want to burden other people with their problems, like, and Andrew, with that in mind, why do you think men hesitate to open up about how they feel, or why do we feel like we can't burden others, or why do we even feel like it is a burden?
Because we feel like we have this lie that's told to us that we're the only one that that happened to, or that's done the shameful thing. Like what we experience when we're in society, and it's even crazier now with social media, which we didn't have when we were growing up. But what we get is these glimpses of these lives around us, and we're like, these lives, these are good lives. There's some bad lives. These are some decent lives. But the stuff that this is what we tell ourselves, the stuff that I've been through, the stuff that I've done, I'm way worse than these people. And also there's we're all born with this desire to see justice, right? We want to see justice and righteousness reign. That's an innate desire. So if I show the bad things about me to the world because I desire that, I'm going to think that I deserve punishment and I deserve to whatever that the act is. But it's a lie, because what happens is every we live in a fallen world, and every man has gone through something, either something's happened to them or they've done something that they regret. Like every single man, I've met a lot of men. I've not met a perfect one yet. There hasn't a perfect man that existed besides Jesus Christ. So what happens is, once we realize what we're seeing when we look around online, when we're at the mall and we see men, or we see men on TV, when we think that man's perfect and I'm not, we have to address that lie and be like, oh no, 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 no. We've all been through something. The shield should calm down. And as soon as that comes down, the floodgate should open and allow for that proper human connection. But we have to first attack that lie. The lie is completely there that, oh no, we're alone. We're too dirty to expose ourselves. And it's a lie.
Yeah.
And that's what blocks our healing. And that's what blocks our purpose. 100%.
Tyler, you got, is there anything that you want to add to that, or maybe can you jump into maybe how that affects, men in their relationships with others, or work, or their
Yeah.
identity?
Yeah, sure, Jim. And I'll take a little bit of a different angle on it, is that my suffering in silence was purely from unawareness.
Mhm.
I'll be honest, I didn't know I was broken. I really didn't. I mean, I knew I had daddy issues. My dad wasn't around. Um, there was just a lot of different things in my life that, I was kind of go in the corner and just kind of shut up, because we don't have time or energy for what you have to say or what your opinion is. And so I didn't realize until just maybe a year or two ago about how much that influence of everybody pushing me down to be quiet was my reality. And I didn't see it that way. I just saw it as, I'm the young kid. My dad left. Everyone's doing the best they can to survive. And this is how it is. And then once COVID happened, it forced me to get all of my coping mechanisms were gone. Girls, booze, drugs, whatever it was,
Mhm.
everything that I distract my time with, so I don't have to deal with whatever it was that I didn't know I had to deal with, wouldn't come to the surface. And then when COVID happened, I mean, the whole thing just unraveled. 25-year career, I went off on a 3-month stress leave. I was on medications. I was seeing therapists. I mean, I was going through the journey, but it was only in that moment when I realized, oh, wow, like I'm really broke. I just thought I was taking on the responsibility of being a man and having a great career, taking care of my family, just going through the motions, right? And then eventually COVID stopped the motions, and I'm like, well, now what do I do? And it all blew up in my face. So COVID was great, but also the worst thing that ever happened to me, but the best thing that ever happened to me, because Jesus found me while I was in that moment. So suffering, and that's my biggest message for people, is always going to be, as I work through this journey, is that even though you think you're suffering in quiet, or you may not think you're suffering, you might be, and just may not be aware of where you are suffering. And why do you have 10 jobs in 2 years? Right? Oh, I don't like my job. It's probably not that. There's probably some more things underneath there, right? Why can't I hold a relationship for longer than 3 months? There might be a reason for that, right? So I think I always had a different lens on it, that's just who you are as a man, and this is what we do.
Right.
Yeah,
So
no, it's not.
how does do you think there's obviously when COVID hit, you kind of mentioned all your vices are gone. What part does accountability take in that then? Is that just not having your vices? You were able to see the accountability that you had to take for some of it as well? Because that's kind of what I'm hearing in the last statement, in terms of, okay, yeah, there's a little bit of accountability to also understand that maybe some of the actions that you're taking are causing,
Yeah, absolutely.
some of that as well, right?
I think during COVID that it brought me down to the depths of darkness of where my mental health really was, but everything else was kind of overcompensating. And then ultimately, I think what it comes down to is that I have accountability now to my actions today. My mother and she'll see this podcast and she'll watch every minute of it, I know, because that's just who she is, and I love her for that. But we have debates all the time. And it is a conversation about me saying I'm being accountable to this because of this. And then she might say, well, that doesn't make any sense because of this. And I say, well, but you were raising me as a mother with the lens on a son. I'm trying to share with you, as a son that didn't have a father, what influence and impact that had on me in my relationship with you and my family and my career and my relationships and my marriage and everything. And so I think the accountability, as a man today, I have to own that accountability because I am aware now. And I know what is right and wrong. And before, not that I didn't know it was right and wrong, but it was only on my metric. Should I do it? Should I not do it? Oh, go for it. And that was it. Now I've got God sitting there going, are you sure? And I'm like, okay, no, I probably shouldn't. And I found that fatherly love of God is now my mentorship about how to be a real man, how to love, how to be compassionate, how to forgive, how to have empathy, how to love and care for people the way you're supposed to, not the way I interpret it because of my broken environment. So I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned through it all. Whew, that's going to be a moment for me now.
Baby, come
Take
on.
a minute. Take a minute.
Cooking.
Yeah.
Let's preach it.
Whew.
Good.
Yeah, and there's
Felt
nothing, there's nothing wrong with some silence. So we'll take some silence through here as well. There's no no need to keep going if we need a moment as well. Because that's the other thing too, right? Is we want to share. But Andrew, you were on one of our last podcasts, and we discussed about how maybe taking a moment for yourself and really being able to sit with yourself in silence, to really help ask the right questions. Because really, it's not about finding the answer. Sometimes, about finding the right question to ask yourself. To really kind of get grounded again and get back to, okay, what is going on? What's the issue? And then having that ability to reach out and knowing where and who to reach out to. Derek, is there anything you want to add to that? After hearing Tyler, in terms of, is it, like, for you, how has it, affected your relationships, whether it be with work or identity or relationships or?
Yeah, I mean, accountability, that it falls at your feet. It falls at the man's feet to blow his own horn and say, hey, I need some help. And it's on you to go and call Andrew or call Tyler and be like, hey, I'm struggling today. I've done that. My first year of sobriety, I called people up all the time and I'd say, hey, tell me why I should drink today. We laugh and
Mm-hmm.
we'd get past it. It was just that one phone call, maybe a couple phone calls. But I find people like to push the accountability on the other people. Like when people see you doing well and see you overcome some obstacles, they want to know how you did it. You can explain it to them, you can tell them, but I find it easier to just show them, like come alongside them and get down there with them. And you know, that takes a lot out of people, and you got to manage your expectations. But when I put it on people, you have to be accountable to yourself first, and then your family, and then your community. Like if you're not doing those things, if you're not accountable to yourself, you can't be accountable to other people.
Yeah,
Agree.
it's true.
Yep.
Andrew, was there a specific moment, or experience that really made you realize, that you needed to take, or you needed to prioritize your own mental health?
Mm. This specific moment, I remember this story came to me earlier today, actually, and it's funny because this I'll tell the story, but the healing didn't happen for a lot longer, way later. This memory came to my mind this morning when I was 20 years old, and it was like 6 in the morning on a Saturday, and I was out with my friends, and we were in after party mode. There was a lot of cocaine, women, like the whole thing. And this is after years of being deep in the party scene. We started with drinking, moved on to heavier drugs, and I did that for years. And I remember, like, it was morning. I remember being light out, and I left the house where the party was happening, and I was sitting outside, and I was bawling, just bawling. And I remember calling a family member, and I remember being like, I don't know what's going on. I need help. And that family member probably could have guessed what my situation was, but I didn't share with them where I was at, what I was doing. But they'd suggested, obviously, I go get some help. So I remember that was when I first started going to therapy. I had good health benefits at the time, and I went and started doing therapy sessions, and I went and talked to my doctor. And I got on some medication. I started doing some sessions, reading books, trying to understand mental health. What's interesting is that my mental health journey started to improve at that time, where I was around 20 years old, but I didn't have a real like great freedom from that until a decade later. Over that 10-year period, or I guess a little bit longer than that, I had bouts with panic attack, depression, locked myself in a room, crying for no reason, flipping out at people, distancing, like all the stuff I went through for a decade. And it didn't, not until when I turned 30, with my 30th birthday was the last time I drank and did drugs, did a lot of that stop. So what's interesting is that I was going to get healing for my mental health by going and talking to the people, reading the books, taking the meds. But the big thing that was holding me back, which I wasn't willing to look at or did I even realize was that big of an issue because everyone else was doing it, was the habits that I was choosing and the scenarios I was putting myself in with the partying and the drinking and the drugs. So kind of what I think Tyler was just talking about this too, which is like maybe like there's a reason beneath why the relationship's not working or the job's not working. And it's like, I was willing to go and fix some stuff, but the real anchor of it all, I was refusing to look at. I was refusing to look at that. And maybe it's not drugs and alcohol for everybody. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it is a trauma from when you're younger. Maybe it was some other thing, but I was willing to do all the other work,
Right.
but the one thing that was going to actually solve it.
Because it's the hardest thing.
It's the hardest thing.
It's the hardest thing.
Buddy,
It's I can't. I've been trying to think of I have a quote. It's a favorite quote of mine. I can't remember it exactly, but it goes something along the lines of like, until you look at the true honest version of yourself with like true honest eyes, like until you turn and look out, here's who you are, here's what you've done, here's what you've been through. Until you do that, there's no way to experience any freedom whatsoever. The best version, the healthiest version of you is locked behind that door. You have to look at it.
And how does one look at that, Derek, Tyler? You know, yeah. What would you say to someone that is trying to search behind that door?
Well, be prepared for what you find. It's not pretty. It takes time. You need patience. You need to have some grace for yourself. You know, there's going to be a lot of emotions. You can't go around them. You have to go through them. And I tell you, there's a lot of days that I spent alone crying. And, you know, sometimes they creep in. And it's the story that we assign to these emotions that creep in that really make the difference. Emotions last 45 seconds. So if we can get through the emotion that comes in, anger, grief, or whatever it is, sit with it, recognize where it comes from, and don't act on those emotions. I think that's the biggest problem with men. We are very reactive in our emotions, especially anger. You know, I've done some stuff in anger. I just, you know, because I was hurt, and it wasn't even because of the person I was that, that was in front of me. It was something that happened a long time ago and I wasn't aware of. So we have a tendency to project our anger and act on our emotions. But if we can somehow recognize these emotions that come in and control them, that you're ahead of the game.
Do you guys? Yeah, you know, I wonder because I know for me, you know, talking about emotions, you know, with anybody, I it's hard. I'm like, I just go blank. You know, everything's in there. I know what I want to say. If I step away from you 10 minutes later, I'm like, why didn't I say that? Why didn't I say this? You know, does that happen to you guys? Like, did you ever just go blank? You know, is that a male thing? Is that just part of the struggle, or?
Well, I think I think it comes back to what I'd said earlier, is that sometimes I think it's just the unawareness of what is underneath everything. You know, I mean, I don't think, and I'll simulate that, you know, I don't think that any day that I picked up a drink of Crown Royal or a beer and I decided tonight I'm going to have a great night and party my ass off, that I was thinking, well, this is great because this will drown my sorrows. I don't think I ever went into it with that. I just would be like, well, this feels good. Going over there doesn't feel good. So why would I go expose myself over here when I want to be over here? And I think, you know, just to, you know, add on to what Derek had said and what you were kind of saying, Jim, is that I think as men and as the society in general, especially with social media and that, you know, 3-second attention span, we are very reactionary with no regulation, right? So I think what I've been learning and trying to implement in my own life, in my own household and with my own family, is it's okay for us to have a reaction because that is stimulating something internally that we need to address. It can be good, it can be bad, it can be ugly, it can be pretty, it doesn't matter. But then how do you move to a process of then regulating your reactions so that you can have healthy relationships?
Yeah.
You can be, oh, you know, Tyler's in the meeting, he's going to go off on somebody at some point when someone pushes that button, because I was reactionary. And it was even in my corporate career. And I know anyone that watches this that knew me in my corporate career, and I won't tell you where I worked, people know, they know, they would probably say I was a firecracker. You know, I knew what I was doing. I knew how to deliver the numbers, but dealing with me sometimes wasn't always the easiest because I was very reactionary. You know, I'm feeling it. We got to talk about it. Let's bring it up. That's bullshit. You're lying to me. That's not the number we're going to bring to the business. And they're like, you can't say that. And I'm like, what do you mean I can't say that? Like, it is bullshit. I'm like, but you can't say it that way. And I'm like, okay. But again, without any regulation about, okay, I feel that way. Now I'm regulating that reaction to say, hey, maybe we should revisit this because I don't think this is going to pass or this isn't going to work. Rather than, oh my God, what are you guys doing? Geez, you're just like my kids and blah, 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 blah. Nobody wants to deal with that guy, right? I don't want to deal with that guy. And I was him for a very long time. So I think learning your reactions, understanding your triggers,
Mm,
understand when you have a feeling that what is the trigger creating this feeling in me. And I always say, when you feel that trigger, start peeling back the onion. Okay, it's not the first layer, it's not the second layer, it's not the third layer. Keep going and going and going. And eventually, you will get to the answer of why you are reacting in a certain way.
Mhm.
And then it's about trying to implement the right filters, the right thought process, the right, group of people around you to help you reprogram and help you regulate your communication and your mental health rather than just, as Andrew gets from me all the time, because that's just who I am. But
it's so
I've
good.
learned to regulate a little bit.
It's so good, man. I'd love to add on that if I could.
Yes.
It's so that's my experience as well. So you could say I'm a recovered anger addict. Like,
Mhm.
so when I went to anger management for the first time, early 20s, and I noticed a pattern of like going through rage stages often on people, lost a lot of relationships as a result, and figured out my triggers and figured out how to manage that. To now, I rarely raise my voice, but it was costing me a lot. But so I had to go through that, had to sit with a therapist and figure out my triggers. But as we're talking about this, I actually went over and grabbed a book that I read years ago. It's on cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm sure you guys are aware of it, CBT. I read this years ago and I still reference this. What we're talking about is this piece right here. It's the four stages of learning. So it's this. It's so good. It's being unconsciously incompetent, becoming consciously incompetent, becoming consciously competent, becoming unconsciously competent. I just said a lot of words there, but it's the stages we all go through when it comes to learning something. So before we realize we have an anger issue or substance, any issue at all, we are like, and Tyler's mentioned this a few times now. He says, I was unaware. Yeah, because he was unconsciously incompetent. He didn't know he was missing. He had no idea. But then someone points it out, right? And someone points it out, and it's like, hey, that's a thing. And then you become conscious. You're aware that you're incompetent, and that's the hard. That struggles because you're like, I don't want to deal with this. I'm aware of like the gross parts about me. But over time, when you work through, strengthening your the muscle, the neural pathways, and all the things, and the habits, and all that stuff, you become consciously competent. You become consciously aware. You're making better decisions. You're moving in a better direction, and you have better reactions to the point where you finally get to the last stage, which is the desired stage, which is you are unconsciously competent. And this is where I'm at now with a lot of things, like especially anger. I'm unconsciously aware. I don't even know. I'm not even aware of the fact that my body is regulating itself, and I'm competently doing good things. So there's a whole process we have to go through with anything from anger to addiction to the way we show up in the world, where if we can literally reprogram our minds to go on autopilot to regulate ourselves towards a better, more healthy behavior. It's 100%. That's exactly what all our therapy is pointing us to.
I appreciate
I'm
you
not
sharing
sure if
that.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be processing that Andrew just called me incompetent. I'm not sure where do we leave that in or do we edit that out? I'm not sure.
I'm we're gonna call Caitlin after this, and I'm gonna say, Caitlin, tell Tyler this. My wife, Caitlin, tell Tyler the story about when I came running out of the bedroom. I said, I said, I got it. I said, I'm unconsciously incompetent. And she's like, yeah, you are an idiot. I'm like,
I'm not to blame for
I'm an
anything
idiot.
now.
Yeah.
None of it was my fault. I didn't know.
Yeah. I know. When I said the good news is I was an idiot. I said I was an idiot. I was messing it up, but now I'm aware. I'm consciously incompetent. Ah,
Or you're consciously aware you're an idiot.
Yeah,
exactly. Makes all the difference.
What yeah, and Andrew, thanks again for sharing that. That's great context and content. What was the hardest part, about starting your guys' journey? And I'm trying to think of the better way to say it, like to be, we'll say a better man, better mental wellness. What was the hardest part of that journey?
Mm. Yeah, self-reflection, owning
Yeah.
my stuff. Like, there was for like when I was at my lowest, I was sitting in the basement. I was watching Joe Rogan podcast, and David Goggins was on there, and he's like, "No one's coming to save you." And I'm like, "Phew." I'm sitting here waiting around for someone to kick the door in
Yeah.
and be like, "Derek, let's go. Come on." I'm like, "All right, man." So I got down and just started doing burpees. Something just spoke into me at that point, and it was just like, sometimes you don't have a choice. You know what I mean? Like you're at your bottom and you got nowhere to go but up, right? And that was my case. So I just think it's we need to be aware and and share our struggles with men so they don't fall all the way down for sure.
Yeah, and I think for me, Jim, I think it's purely a mechanism of fear, right? I mean, like, I've got my whole arms tattooed. I just had a bad fall the other day. My arm's all bruised up, my back is all messed up. Everything hurts me physically, but I got up and I got out of bed this morning and went about my day. But knowing that I have to unveil the hurt and the pain that's going to come with, back in the day, now I'm not there, but the thought of trying to address my father issues punch me in the face all day. I'll take that over going down that path because that pain is not the temporary. I got a punch in the face. I got a bruise here. I got a bruise here. It's oh wow, like this is my life, and this is gonna be things I'm gonna be thinking about every day. And Andrew and I, ironically enough, had this conversation just Saturday night, right?
Hmm.
And I was sharing with him some stuff that went on with me last week that I won't get into too many details, but there was an unveiling of heavier things that I wasn't fully aware. I kind of was like, I've been through my journey. I'm on a good spot. I don't know if I have much more to unpack. Yeah, no, dead wrong.
Hmm.
But I've already told my therapist, I don't know if I'm going to do it. I said, I just don't know. I know
Okay.
I need to. I know I have to go through it. And I know that unraveling it will help me heal. But I just don't know if I can do it. But I'm going to wake up tomorrow with my back sore, my bruising. I'm going to push through it. But to tell me I got to go sit in a room with a therapist and go underneath all my daddy issues again,
Yep.
I don't have any. I will do it one day, but it's going to take a long time to build up that courage to do it again. And I think as a man, sometimes that is how do I tell people that? How do I tell people I'm scared to talk about my father? I'm going to have a moment again.
Mm.
No, take it.
I'm a man, I'm a father,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm a son, I'm an ex husband. But I have a lot of people counting on me for their life. And how am I going to go and tell people I don't want to talk about my father? I'm too afraid of it. Well, then I'm not going to come to you with any of my part. If you can't talk about your own father, how are you going to help me to talk about my father?
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's the stigma that gets attached that I can tell Andrew all the things he should do about his life situations, but
Right.
tell me to do it?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the heaviness of the fear of the internal pain in your heart. Men are not good with heart pain. We suck.
Hmm.
We keep it inside. We hurt. We cry. Derek said many a times, I'm at home by myself crying because we don't want people to see that maybe we're a little weaker than we're projecting to the society of who we really are as men and as fathers and husbands and stuff like that. So I think that's, yeah, I think that's all I would add at this point.
Mm. Well, I don't cry at home alone anymore. I do cry at the gym. Sometimes people will see me out there. I'm just repping it out. I get tears in my eyes. I'm doing my thing. It makes people feel uncomfortable. I'm quite okay with it, right? So
Yeah,
I think that's
good for
being
you.
okay with being okay with your stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
shout out to you for going to therapy. And I like to look at therapy as a hoarding situation in your mind. Some things are lighter, some things are heavier. You need some help with, like some things you can unpack yourself. And then when you're sitting around and you look at your room, you get it all cleaned up. You look in that corner and you see that door that's boarded off and chained up and says "keep out." And you got to go through
Yeah.
that door. And I think we spend a lot of time sifting the stuff and the less heavy stuff because it's easier. I tell people go search for that door right away and try and tackle it. You'll save yourself a lot of time and some money, going for therapy, but everybody goes at their own pace. I had 10 years of it. So, It's I'm a subject matter expert in it, I guess.
Well, it's good. It's great to do. I mean, I know I have my therapist on speed dial.
Yeah, man.
It'll be a Friday night at 11 o'clock, and I'll text her and say, I need to talk to you next week.
Do you do you guys think there's a correlation with like our perception of what strength means versus being emotional and sharing emotion? Like like how did you how did your perception of strength change after you started the journey? Like is there a correlation there with still we just have the society, I don't even know if it's society, because society is a lot more open than it was. It's a lot better, I believe, anyways, from what we're seeing. More and more people are sharing. But is it still us holding on to that, man, I gotta be this strong, man, I can't get emotional?
Yeah, Andrew, do you want to maybe chime in there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or not? Put you on the
No,
spot.
I do. No, I do. You gotta, you gotta give me a second. Sometimes my brain is a little slow to process, and just because I'm trying to figure out the right thing. But I totally see that, right? I totally see that there is this disposition in men to avoid emotions. And what's what's interesting, you mentioned it, you just mentioned it, Jim, really, is that we have come a long way. And I've adopted this position of being quite vulnerable and open in public places, and people will often thank me for that, and it's not, I'm doing it to be helpful to them and show them that it's possible. But that just demonstrates to me that, like, when I share a very vulnerable post where I'm like, oh, I'm struggling with my anger, or whatever it was that I was struggling, and people like will comment on that and be like, oh my gosh, you're so brave or so strong for doing that. I'm like, I really don't see it. I think that everybody should, because I've seen the benefit. I know the benefit of just being real open with the fact that life is very difficult and we have very challenging situations, whether it be mental health, even things like grief or whatever. I think that people can easily. What ends up happening, I know, is that we end up we see strength as taking the weight of those things on ourselves, and no mere man was designed to handle the weight of most heavy things on their own. Literally, a calling on humans is to carry and shoulder the burdens of your brother. And first of all, don't rob me from that, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm your brother, you got to share that with me, and I'm going to do the same back to you. But that just isn't isn't the default setting for men. The default setting for men is not, hey, my plate is this big, it's overflowing, let me find someone else's plate. That's not what we're thinking. We're thinking,
Right.
how do I get this plate to be bigger? It can't be that way. That's when we collapse.
Yeah, you said something there. I'm just gonna share a quick story. I have a good friend that I work with, and I'll say his name. I spoke to him about before doing this podcast. His name's Jay, and he just lost his son recently. Really struggling with it. Obviously, I might struggle telling the story for him. But he just posted a video. He was at work on Saturday, and he posted a video walking out in the yard. I'm in auto sales for anyone that knows me. And just let his feelings out. And said in the video, it's okay to be okay, or it's okay to not be okay. And he wasn't sure if he was going to post it, and he did. And I just remember going into him this morning. I mean, can't imagine what he's going through, first off. So, I've never lost a child, you know, but for him to do that and to share that, wasn't looking for anything for it. It was just his way of getting his emotions out and sharing it. And, it's like you were just saying, Andrew, like, kudos for him to share such a vulnerable video. Again, we can't imagine what he's going through, or I cannot. I shouldn't speak for other people. But for him to just be open and, he doesn't have to burden that alone, and yeah. Anyways, I just
Yeah.
wanted to share that
No,
story because, for anybody else
thanks, Jim.
going through, because Andrew, you kind of mentioned grief, and I know you've gone through your own grief, whether you want to share that or not, but um, yeah, just for him to have the strength to do that,
Well,
not only helped, I'm sure in hindsight, it doesn't feel like it helped him, but it helped him share the feelings, helped him get the emotions out. And I certainly know it helped other people that seen it.
So I can speak on that. I carried some stuff with me for a long time. I was very shameful and felt guilty about, and my struggles with PTSD, drinking, gambling, all that stuff. And I had an opportunity to do a podcast much like this one. It's called the Papa Tango Sierra Delta podcast with Larry Payton. And I basically just put everything out there in my life that I went through. And the response that I got was amazing. People were like, wow, like, thank you so much. It helped me move past some things. And what it did for me, it was no longer mine to carry all that burden and stuff.
Mm.
So now it's for everybody else to take on. So
Yeah.
um, it's interesting because this podcast is doing the thing we're talking about, which is I pray to God that men will watch this and see that they aren't alone and they aren't weird or different because of what they've experienced, and that there is, some healing in what they've gone through just by hearing our experiences. So I don't want to leave. I do want to take an opportunity to go on the grief thing because someone may watch this that is dealing with some deep grief, and grief is a bastard to deal with. I know for those that don't know, I lost my sister, my older sister, in May of 2021, and I lost my younger brother in August of that same year. So 66 days later. So I was hit with a double whammy of unexpected, massive amounts of grief. By the grace of God, I can give really nothing but glory to God on this. But what he did was he put we've talked about this already, but it's worth calling out. He put the power of community around me. So we've talked about this so many times already without really calling it out, but community, like brothers or people that love you and love you well, is a major difference maker. Having those people around you that you can share that with lightens the load for us to be able to walk in strength. And what happened for me, I was able to grieve in a very healthy manner, to a point, because you can grieve in a non-healthy manner, which is go into the dark pits we've already talked about and discussed, or you can grieve and cry on a regular basis and talk and share,
mm,
and then laugh and joy and dance and move on. And then as the waves hit, you kind of just deal with them. And I grieve in a very healthy way, because as soon as my sister died, my brother died, I was immediately comforted by family, but really specifically brothers who loved me. What's very interesting, and I need to make this point as well, as we're growing up, I'm sure you guys had a very similar experience. As we were growing up, or I guess throughout our whole lives, our communities shape us. The people around shape how we show up in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a limited option when I'm growing up. I got the people that I go to school with and play sports with, right? So I'm going to fall into line with those people. I love those people. Don't miss that. I love them to death. And a lot of them I'm still really good friends with. But as I started to change my life and move in a different direction, I had different people that came around me. And a lot of the people that came around me quickly shot right up to being some of the most trusted, loved men I know. Case in point, you three guys, haven't known any of you for longer than 18 months. I could call in any of you tomorrow and you'd be at my doorstep. I just know that. I've got pockets of men in my life that are that same way. I remember the day after my sister died, it's kind of a blur now. I think the day after my sister died, I didn't know what to do. You don't know what to do. It's my first time I dealt with anything like that. What do? I don't know. Do I go play video games? Do I go sleep? Do I shoot off guns? What do I do? All I knew, and I it was like, okay, well, God said, come to me with all your troubles. So it happened to be a Sunday. I went to church and I was surrounded by people who just loved, like a crowd of people who just loved on me, broke it, just handed the grief off to them. They carried it for me. And then literally for like the next, I don't know, 6 months, literally people showing up, recognizing this is how we have to care for this brother, calling me, praying with me, showing up with food, showing up to, listen to me cry and go on, sitting there in silence. That's a hot tip, by the way. When someone's really grieving, you don't know what to say. Don't say anything, just your presence alone. Because, and this is a big point, is back to like when we're growing up, we as humans, we have another core need inside of us, which is that human connection.
Mm.
We have that. No matter how introverted you are, it doesn't matter. You may want just to sit with you in silence, but you want a person around you. And we really need those people around us, and we need them to be lifting us up and helping us to be better. And if we don't allow that to happen, especially through times of grief or other mental health challenges, it's tough. So finding the right people and allowing them to love on you is God's gift.
Amen.
Yeah. What I mean, we unpacked a lot thus far. And going through what you guys went through, and what I've gone through in terms of just just trying to be a better man, better person, be there for ourselves, just be well mentally, emotionally. What helps you guys stay grounded or centered, especially in those times of, when you're under pressure now, and to not maybe fall back into the dark days or the rough times?
Yeah. I'll start with that one, but I would definitively say faith. I'm gonna try and get through it again. Being a man or a boy, I was a 7-year-old boy up until 5 years ago. The day my father left, I never moved from there. And I think what was missing in my life was something to believe in to help me get through what I'm going through, because I didn't feel that in my particular network that I had anybody that could fully comprehend where I am and where I'm going, and to be there and support me through that journey, because sometimes our own interference interferes with other people's journey and processing. And so I turned to faith because I didn't know what else to do. Again, not a believer. I would challenge you until the day you died about the Bible. It's a book, but like I would go on. I was one of those guys. Like, I'm not going to go there today, but I was one of those guys, right? Like, and the moment that faith came to my life and gave me an understanding, that is where I go all the time. I might call Andrew and say, hey, this is bothering me. He said, did you pray on it? And there's a verse and or call Derek and say, Derek, can you pray with me? And this is heavy on my heart and blah, 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 blah. But in my own dark moments, in my home, in my bedroom, when I'm all by myself, God is always with me. And he's always the one that is the father that I need to say, Dad, I'm hurting. I don't know how to get through this. I don't know how to show up tomorrow. I don't know how to get out of bed and be the man I'm supposed to be when I don't feel like a man, because society is telling me I'm weak as a man because I'm crying and I'm sharing my feelings and I can't handle this and I can't handle that. God looks at all that and says, well, whatever. Donald Trump, not Trump, left, right, center. I don't care about any of that crap. What I care about is that you're a human being and you love people the way you're supposed to love and the way that I taught you. And so I get really agitated sometimes when I hear people complaining about left and right and government this and government that and blow it. Oh, you know what? Blow it out your ass. Sorry, I probably shouldn't have said it on the podcast, but really blow it out your ass. Because at the end of the day, when all of that changes every 4 years or changes every 8 or changes decades from now, who we are as people and human beings is what is going to determine the path that we take. Not about who's the president or not the president, or can I go into I joke with my buddies all the time because there was all these people complaining about $25,000 fine to go into the woods because of the forest fires. Bro, like honestly, are you worried about a bomb landing on your house tonight? Are you trying to grieve your son that has now passed away? Like, get your ass out of your head, or head out of your ass, I should say, either or, and focus on what's real and not all this nonsense. And I think as men, we have to have an opinion about it.
Mhm.
You know, what do you believe in gun regulations, Tyler? I don't give a crap what you do with your damn guns. What I care about is the people that have them are so broken that they're shooting people. That's what I care about.
Yes.
And that's where you can tell I get just really heated up and saying, like, we've gone so far away as a society of what we should be focusing on, and we're getting into this instant gratification of, hey, look at me, I'm the keyboard warrior. Look what I said. Huh? Did you see my post that I said to this guy? He gives a shit. Like, you know, be a man and stop doing that and go out and change the world. That is a man. That's what the expectation is. Yeah. So I don't know if I answered the question or not, Jim. Sorry, I went on a tangent there. But anyways, I always turn to faith because faith is never wrong. Faith is not left or right. Faith is not up or down. Faith is faith, and it's true every day, consistently. And that is the metric I use to manage my life now.
100%.
Done.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, you answered that. Well, you answered it authentically. You know, because what I got from that was faith is definitely your go-to, and you know, to stay grounded. And you know, what I got from that is keep your focus on what's real, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
we are distracted. You know, we are just worried about all this stuff that does have no bearing on you know, society as a whole, or what's going on internally with yourself or loved ones. And yeah, so no, that was a perfect answer, and it kind of, you know, segues into the next question. What role does relationship, fatherhood, or purpose, you know, play in your guys' mental health today?
I can answer that quickly, and then I'll pass it off to someone else. But very definitive, clearly, how it plays a role in my life. My father left when I was 7 and broke generations of my family. I am here to fix that.
Yeah.
My purpose is to help my family heal from the brokenness of the past generational trauma. And so I think understanding that that is my purpose, every decision I make around that is directed towards that. You know, if my sister's having a bad day, where was my father in those days? He wasn't there for her. So when my sister has a bad day today, I'm going to be there for her. Yeah. When my mom is really angry because of what my father did 40 years ago, well, Mom, I know that hurts, but listen, that was then, that's now. Let's be happy together here. And so I think that is the role that I believe men need to be more prominent about, is helping your family, and your responsibility is to regulate, is to help them regulate and get through the things they need to get through. And like Derek said, help your family, go and unlock that door in the corner nobody wants to open. Mm-hmm. And let me walk with you as we go through it. But I'm not going to leave you on the island by yourself. So anyways, that was it. I'll pass it off.
Refresh the question for me again, Jim.
Yeah, what role do you know, relationships, fatherhood, or purpose play for you in your mental health today?
Oh golly, well, purpose is a huge thing. When I got back from Winnipeg, I moved back home, and I didn't really know anybody. I've been gone for 21 years, nothing but free time, disposable income, and struggling with sobriety. So what did I do when I got back home? I started looking for all those things that comfort me instantaneously, and I felt miserable. I felt disconnected. And then I realized that I needed to try something else. Like, let's give the sobriety thing a try. And luckily, at the same time, it just seemed like everything started lining up. I started making relationships with men, like having solid conversations with groups of men that hold me accountable, that I can go on and say, hey, man, I really goofed up. or when they see me struggling, that will reach out and call me and say, "Hey, are you doing okay?" And that's the type of commitment that we need to make to each other as men. It says in the Bible in Matthew 4:19 that we need to be fisher of men. We need to go out and come alongside people and help them. And I think if we start taking our lead from Christ and in the Bible, we'll go a long way, a lot further than we are now. I know my faith is relatively new. I just got baptized last year in September, but I'm in the deep end. And I tell you, I did all the self-help books. I did the therapy. I've done everything. The biggest thing for me was spiritually that was missing. So mentally, I was good. Physically, I was good. I got back to the gym, but there was a Jesus-sized hole in my heart. And until I went to him, it was, you know, I didn't feel complete. But now that's why I lean into some of my darkest days. So when those things pop up, when I feel like I'm not doing okay, or feel like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I always turn to him and just lay it at his feet. I got plausible deniability now. So here you go. You take it. I'm going to live life.
Yeah.
So good.
Well, congratulations on your baptism, Derek.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's an amazing. I went through it 4 years ago, and wow, what an experience, I tell you. But
Amen.
Yeah, I can add on that too. Fatherhood, huge focus on the family for me. Part of my purpose, of course, but so purpose is such a huge question. Every man is born with a, how did I get here? What's going on? And what am I supposed to do? And I think every man will throw a lot of things at the wall trying to figure that out. And some unfortunately don't. Luckily for me, and I think the other men can say the same thing, I found my purpose. I know my purpose. I've seen two things. I've seen the darkness and the light. And I've also seen the riches of this world, because I've seen I'll elaborate on riches in a second. But when I say that I've seen the darkness and I've come outside of that, I now have a very serious mission to help men specifically come outside of that dark cave and say, yo, hey, look, there's something else out there for you. And it's not what you thought it was.
mm-hmm.
That's the first thing. Second thing is riches. Like I've literally found the thing that gives all life. I've found the thing that literally is the fountain of life that solves every thirst in my body. Let anyone who is thirsty come to me and drink. For whoever believes in me, as scripture has said, rivers of living water will flow within them. John 7:37-36. Like Jesus Christ is, like these guys are saying, it is literally the thing that has pulled me and so many other people out of that darkness that does exist. What are we doing here? That answers the question right there. We live in a world that's dark and fallen, yet there is a light to be seen. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. What are we supposed to do now that we're here? What is the plan? The plan is get everybody as fast as you can out of the dark. Get them into the light. The boat is sinking. Get them out. So my purpose is fully rooted in that. I'm fully rooted in. My purpose is not in my career, because that's going to go away. My purpose isn't even in fatherhood, because I'm going to be a father in this context, my children now, for only so long. I can't root myself in that, because eventually they're going to move on and be adults. I can't root myself on these temporary things. I can only root myself in the things that are going to continue to exist in this world, which is there are going to continually be men specifically who are bumping around, struggling, trying to figure out what is it that I'm trying to do. And as Derek said, my job is to take them out, show them Jesus, who will teach them how to be fishers of men, then send them back out, say, hey, this is how you go and do this to another brother. Disciple and make disciple makers. So that is my purpose. My purpose is fully rooted in helping to love people the way I've been loved by God. And that's a mission. And that's why, all through the Bible, it talks about like Jesus, like the God, the creator of the universe, the creator of the mountains and the seas and all these beautiful things, loves us all so much. We're all infinitely valuable to him. None of us tend to realize that for some reason, but he he had a special heart for what? Widows and poor and outcasts. There's always going to be widows, and there's always going to be poor and outcasts. So therefore, our job as fishers of men on this mission, it will never end. It'll never end until Jesus comes back, or the day the earth ends. But all these other things I could place my purpose in, like my career or being a father or being a whatever, those things that can end. And if it ends and I put my purpose in it, I'm going to see existential dread. But if I'm fully rooted in something that brings life, and it can never end until Jesus returns or the world ends, I'm good. Like, I know that I found the right mission because it gives me life when I give others life, and the work's never going to be done.
Not in our lifetimes.
Nope.
Well, where do you want to go from there, Jim?
Well, well, let's ask this. Obviously, you know, we've had some great discussions. Definitely unpacked a lot. Again, everybody's been vulnerable here. So let's ask this. What does being a strong man mean to you today versus 10 years ago?
This is I tell you, it's doing the things you got to do not to be a liability. You know, it's I was a liability for a long time because I was ignorant to my stresses and how I was acting, but now I'm accountable. So I mean, being a strong man is not just the illusion of strong, but actually being strong. You know, you can be a masculine dude, but if you can't handle your business and your business is handling you, it's you know, that's a story that I know all too well. And I had the illusion of strong, but I wasn't a strong man. I think I'm stronger now, mentally and spiritually and physically, and they all go hand in hand. So, I guess you just change your perception of what strong is. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and then I would say that I think 10 years ago, the expectation on man was to being purely the provider in all facets, provider of my happiness, provider of my, you know, whatever the case may be. And I think today, as a man, I think my task is to still be a provider, but a provider of positive, a provider of love, a provider of compassion, a provider of empathy. And I know, you know, if I think back about when my daughter was, you know, let's say 4 or 5 before I converted, the things I was teaching her about how to care about other people and how to react from other people drastically shifted when I became a healed man. And now my daughter, who was 12 and going through all that preteen girl stuff that I have no idea about at all, but the context of the regulation of the emotions is the exact same for everybody. And I know we're talking about men, but I also want to say that, you know, it's not just men that need to learn how to regulate. It's, you know, how does a man, you know, cast the proper shadow for the mom and the kids and everyone to kind of follow. And I'm not trying to say in the context that, well, you know, men lead the family and everyone should just fall behind. I'm saying is that the definition of a man before was suck it up, be the provider. Now it's suck it up, be the provider, but walk with me and teach me what you've journeyed through in your own hurt and your own pain. And make sure that when my daughter grows up, that when she is trying to teach her kids, she's teaching the way I've taught her and not the way I was taught.
So let's hang on to that, because that's perfect. Perfect example, perfect segue here to ask this here, which is how can we now model emotional openness for our sons, and our daughters? Because to your point, you know, it's not just about men here, even though the topic's about men, but how can we model emotional openness for our children, our peers, or our teams, whether at work or sports?
That's so good. Like, I was writing this down as you guys are talking, and so it answers the last question too, which is how do we show we're strong? Well, we have to allow our weaknesses to happen. We have to allow the fact that we are mere humans to still be true. And so what that means is, even especially in my home, my children see that I'm not God. They see that I'm not all things and all providing and all the like. I'm allowed to be weak, and I'm allowed to ask for help. Just this morning, my son walked in and I was praying. I'm like at the end of my bed, and so that's an example, right? Like if he sees me praying, I'm literally on my knees. I'm literally physically with my body demonstrating I've got it all figured out. My children have seen me cry. My children hear the words I share with them. I like things like "you are valuable," like "I love you." So like I'll randomly all the times be like, "Buddy, I love you so much, sis." That's what my daughter's nickname is, sis. I love you so much. You're so special. Like positive word, all these things that just build them up and demonstrate this is how we're supposed to show up to build up each other's confidence and strength. So it's demonstrating, it's having conversations with my wife where we're not like, we'll have age appropriate arguments in front of our children to show that it's not, mommy and daddy aren't perfect, right? Mommy and daddy are trying to figure things out together. It's not mommy's way and it's not daddy's way. It's we work together. So I'm really demonstrating a reliance on others. And I'm not perfect. I don't expect you to be perfect. I actually expect you to quickly recognize the areas where you're falling short and just get help. And then everything will be fine from there.
Yeah, and I would say the biggest takeaway for me that I would want men and anybody to understand is that stop suffering in quietness.
Yeah.
That, like, when I'm crying because I'm frustrated, or I'm crying because I'm hurting, or like a good example of Andrew said, my daughter, I've been trying to get her to do skating lessons, and she's absolutely refusing to go through the process. And I've tried and tried and tried and tried. So we got in the car after practice, and she's crying, and I'm frustrated, and this is just a disaster. And I'm just like, "I'm sorry, Dad. I disappointed you." And I'm like, "Oh God, that's the one thing you don't want to hear your kids say, that they think you're disappointed." I said, "Sweetie, I want you to understand something, that in no way am I disappointed in anything that you've tried to approach.
No.
But as a father, I'm trying to help to show you that sometimes things in life are not always easy. And if you persevere, you can do anything you set your mind to." So sometimes there's a misinterpretation of the lessons that I'm trying to teach you, because you're 12 years old and your filter system is not processing the way mine is. But rather than be the man and say, "Well, you just don't get it. I'm dad. Just listen to what I do and suck it up," I try to explain to her, like, "Honey, I'm just frustrated, and I don't know how else to help you see this." So I'm showing her that it's okay, that even as a dad who's supposed to be perfect and know everything, I'm the smartest guy she knows, blah, 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 I sometimes don't know how to help. And I'm not going to hide that from you, that I don't know how to help. Because if someone had said to me when I was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and said, "Gosh, you really seem like you're angry. What's going on?" Who knows? Right? But nobody ever asked. Nobody ever asked. Right? It was just, "Oh, Tyler's a, loose cannon. He's always, reacting, and he's this and that and angry and blah, blah." Well, why didn't nobody's ever asked me why?
Yes.
Like, why am I being like that? I didn't know I knew I can be difficult at times. Call a spade a spade. But I had no comprehension of how difficult I can be. Because I was just trying to protect myself. And that's really what it comes down to, is that I don't trust anybody. Everybody I've loved leaves. Everybody I love gives up on me at some point or another. Are you going to stick in the relationship and try? Yeah, I am. And then they don't. Right? So I've developed a bit of I don't trust people with my own emotions, but I'm going to make sure my daughter understands that it's okay to trust the right people with the information. I don't think you should just blurt it out to everybody, because I don't trust everybody with everything. And I think there's a reason for that. And that's probably my own trauma. But I want her to understand that even the strong dad that you see all the time is just spinning because I don't know how to help. And I want to, but I don't know how to. So can we work together on this? And I just stop being so quiet about it. Like, honey, I don't know what to tell you. This is a mess. We'll figure it out. We'll do it together. Nobody ever did that with me. And I want her to learn that from me as a man and as a dad and as a parent. You know, respect my mother, blah, blah, blah. You know, she might have a different opinion on it, but she can comment on the Facebook post.
Yeah, Tyler, you and I got to get out for coffee.
We do.
A lot of stuff you're saying just totally resonates, and in terms of
Yeah.
everybody having that perception of everybody leaving and guarded, mistrusted. Yeah. Anyways, that resonated.
Yeah.
That one resonated. Listen, we're coming up here. Just we'll ask one last question to everybody here. So what is one thing that you would tell your younger self? And obviously this is for the listeners out there listening today. What's the one thing you would tell your younger self now about mental health?
Okay. It's about consistency and not perfection. You got to give yourself some grace, and it's going to be okay. And you need to get Jesus in your life.
I don't think I can add to that.
I think I would just hug my younger self.
Yeah.
And just say, you know what, it's okay. You're gonna be okay. And I just don't think anyone ever. Yeah. And I'll. You might have to edit this, Jim. I always use the example when I tell people about where I was and where I am now. I buried that 7-year-old boy a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I wish I could go back and grab him and give him the love that he really deserved and was craving so badly.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it for me. Yep.
Yeah. 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 What I've landed on is that I would tell myself that because I achieve for praise, right? And because that's that there's something in there with my childhood with my father, right? It's like I always wanted to. I attributed being a good boy as doing the right things, and I became a perfectionist and a performer as a result of that. And I would totally grab 20-year-old me, 25-year-old me, and say, it's all good, man. Your mind, to stick with the mental health thing, your mind is telling you, no fault of your own, of the conditions you've been subject to because of how and when you were born. Your mind is telling you that the only way for your heart to feel full is if you show up in the world a certain way. And as a result, you have been on this like nonstop treadmill of activity, just dying for someone to look at you and say, it's okay, I love you as you are. So what I would say is breathe, like literally breathe, like sit, be still, deal with the things that you have to deal with one by one. You have the power in you to take care of those things, even though you feel like you don't. And on the other side of that, you'll experience freedom. And while you sit there, as I'm reading this, I'm literally reading this thing right here. It says, in the stillness, he is there. When you sit there, look around and find out where in your situation Jesus is. And as soon as you see him, let him do the heavy lifting for you, and we'll get you to that freedom spot.
I wouldn't say go towards him. I'd say run.
Yeah.
Run as fast as you can and get to him. Because, man, he never stops pursuing us. But by God, we look away, don't we?
Man.
Yeah, so run, little man, run.
Yeah.
He heals all the father stuff. He's there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I'll just add, Tyler, I'm going to put you in maybe an awkward position here, but, I too closed off that younger self. And, I guess for me, I found him and gave him the hug that he wanted and that he needed. And, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not there.
I accepted it.
But,
No,
but
that's
yeah,
okay. That's okay.
yeah, I
I hear
appreciate
you.
that.
Yeah.
And I think the correlation around the image I always provide to people is that in my brain, I always go back to there's a book and a movie. I don't know if you guys have heard The Shack. You must have heard of The Shack,
Oh, yeah.
right? The book, the movie. If you haven't, if you're a man and you have dad issues, you have got to read The Shack. And if you don't know how to read, watch the movie. And if you don't know how to watch a movie, then watch YouTube. Whatever it is, you have to read. You have to get this. Because in that movie, I learned a lot. And there's a part in there about the father's grief of finally going into the garden with God and burying his daughter who was brutally murdered. And it's a scene where it's in the garden and he's there with God and all the love and everything, and he's there to be supported and loved in the darkest moment of his life. And I always look at it in my brain as that 7-year-old boy that broke the day his father left is in that garden flourishing in his own ways now, and he's okay now because he's home. He's where he is home with the father, and he's being loved the way he always wanted to be loved. It's just the adult version of him sometimes is like a little confused and struggles. And but I always go back to say, but at least he's safe now. I took care of him. I took care of him. I gave him the love, and I buried him to give him the peace that he needs, because he's been screaming for 40 years to get out. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Woo. Okay. We done?
Listen, gentlemen, thank you. I appreciate each and every one of you. I can't express how grateful I am, and for all you guys making the time here. I know this will be this way later, but just so you guys know how passionate we are. We're sitting here. We're almost 10 p.m. at night, but it is truly, I'm just truly thankful for all of you being here. And for all you watching, truly thankful for you watching as well. Listen, it's not weakness to feel; it's strength to acknowledge it. And designing your life includes designing space for healing.
Absolutely.
So with that, thanks everybody for watching. I'm gonna show up here just a little thing here for anyone out there struggling. 211NB. You can visit their website. Just great support system here. Also menand.ca for anybody, and locally as well, especially for youth that might be struggling and stuff like that as well. I also want to throw out KV Oasis Youth Center for anybody that might just struggle with having somebody to talk to. There are things out there, and I'll leave a page up at the end of the podcast for a moment as well. So thanks again, everybody, for listening. Thanks to my guests, and remember, design your life. You are the architect of your life.